Yo, what is going on, Senpai Squad? Welcome back to a brand new video, and today I got the review for episode 2 of the promised Neverland. Now, I thought this was another extremely good episode. When I say extremely good, I thought it was a good episode. However, unlike the first episode where I had literally nothing at all other than just love and praise for the episode, this episode's a little bit different. I do actually have a couple little things which I want to bring up, which kind of made me worry for the series going forward, but I'll get into them a little bit later on. But one of the things which I did absolutely adore from this episode is it did one of my favourite scenes in the entire manga really well, and that was the scene with the stare down between Emma and Mom when Emma was kind of reminiscing over Connie now being dead, and Norman kind of listening into as to what was going on. Because in the manga, that scene, you can ask any Promised Neverland manga reader, that scene is iconic for the series. It's just such a beautiful panel. Now, I'm going to have the panel on screen right now as to what it looks like in the manga. And in the anime, it was great. I mean, I expected it to be a bit more of like a jump scare, but instead they kind of went away from the jump scare approach to it and just kind of went more with the eerie approach. And I think either one would have worked. But it was an extremely eerie scene, just having Mama stare down, just kind of blankly, just looking into Emma's soul, you know, asking what was wrong with her. And then you saw Norman essentially just absolutely shitting himself around the corner as to what's going on, because it was clear right then, you realise that, wow, Mom catches on quick. She is dead set on finding who was at the gate on the night of Connie's death, and instantly she goes straight for Emma, and Emma can't let anything slip at all. And Norman catches on to this, obviously, when he kind of reappears and makes his appearance in front of Emma, and Emma does a good job as well of kind of hiding it. And you think they've got away with this, they've done a good job and they've nailed it, and they're not being suspected as of right now. And then they go downstairs and they just freeze in terror as Mum asks, were you the ones who did you go to the gate last night? And instantly you think, as a watcher, you just kind of like, for a split second, you think Emma and Norman have the upper hand. And then Mum, out of nowhere, just comes straight back, and you are kind of sat there watching the episode with the same terrifying, shocked reaction as Emma and Norman actually had in the episode. We also understood a little bit more about not only Emma and Norman's goal in what's going on throughout this series of trying to escape the Gracefield house. Obviously, Emma wants to take everybody on board, and then obviously there's that conversation later on in the episode with Norman and Ray, when, you know, Ray's almost trying to convince Emma that taking all of them is just not possible at all. And to be fair, you do think that, you know, there's 37 of them. If you try and put that into a real world scenario, 37 kids escaping from one place all at once into a world they have zero experience in whatsoever, and no idea what's going to be on the horizon or anything. There could be death around every corner. They don't know what there'll be to eat, to drink, you know, all this stuff. You try and put yourself into that situation, and you have to kind of side with Ray on this one and think, yeah, that is genuinely one of the most impossible things I've ever heard in my life. But Emma, obviously being a shonen protagonist, just says no to whatever Ray says and says, you know what, maybe it's impossible, but guess what, we'll make it possible. And you just kind of think, Emma, that's not how it works. But because you are a shonen main character, I'm sure somehow you're going to do something and prove everyone wrong. But extremely excited to see what happens from here on out, because like I said, those two scenes were done fantastic. The scene when Norman and Ray were speaking, the soundtrack in that, I mean, last week in the first episode we had a beautiful soundtrack, and now in this week the soundtrack that played during that conversation was absolutely phenomenal. I thought it was fantastic, and I need to get a full version of it right now so I can listen to it. I need them to release the entire soundtrack as soon as possible, because so far The Promised Neverland has had one of the best soundtracks in recent anime from what I've heard so far. The animation continues to look really great. The art style, the facial expressions in the anime are absolutely fantastic. You can feel the amount of terror within the children every single time you see their faces drop with how scared they are with Mama being around, or whoever it is, you know, whether it be the demons in the first episode. You can't help but just be in awe of how great of a job the studio have done with the animation and art style. But unfortunately, I have to bring my praise to an end right here, because I want to kind of, you could call it a nitpick. If you really, really want to call it a nitpick, you can, because yes, without what I'm about to bring up, was the episode good? Yes, the episode was still good. But you also have to take into consideration that they actually skipped over quite a lot of stuff. And now some people may argue that it wasn't important things and it was skippable. But in my opinion, some of the stuff that was skipped over in this episode was pretty important. Now, I'm not going to go into tons of detail as to what exactly was skipped, as in terms of scenarios, actions, all of that, just in case maybe they show it later on down the line. But essentially, to give you a small gist of it, what was skipped was, it basically, I think the first episode covered the entirety of chapter 1 and ended right at the end of chapter 1, maybe like the first page or two of chapter 2. This episode went from chapter 2 all the way until I believe the end of chapter 5. Now that's a lot, and they skipped over a good chunk of stuff. Basically, what was missing out was, you kind of got, it was them, the series building a vibe that you start to believe that Em and Norman and Ray are starting to get the upper hand on Mom. You know, you kind of see all these mind games that go on, and it's absolutely stunning in my opinion. From my point of view, I thought it's fantastic, and you really truly start to think, yes, this is extremely doable for Emma and co to actually do. You know, they've got good ideas. They're definitely skilled enough in the areas needed to be able to do this. And you really start to back Emma and Norman and everyone and start to believe in them. And then you get the reveal of Sister Crone, and all of that, everything that's been built up and you believing in them goes straight away. You've been building up all this thinking, yes, they've got the upper hand on Mom, and then you flip the page and Sister Crone's there, and instantly everything just drops. All the hope, all the expectations, all the possibilities that you thought these kids had were wiped out in a matter of one page, and instantly you realise that Mom, you can't get one up over Mom. Mom is always 1, 2, 3 steps ahead without even knowing who her culprits are. And it really gives you a sense of how dangerous, despite being human, you know, a world full of demons. And it really hits home that Mom, a human, is just as, if not more dangerous to these kids than the actual demon. And also, the introduction of Sister Crone. In the anime, it was kind of normal. And although that may not sound a bad thing, in my opinion, I thought the introduction of Sister Crone was done a lot better in the manga. I feel as though it gave, like I was saying, a much more of a, oh shit, this is bad kind of vibe. And I'm going to put the actual panel, side by side to what it was like in the anime, and you can kind of pick up straight away there's a huge difference with the surrounding, with the atmosphere. The atmosphere seems different. In the anime, it's a bit kind of like, oh, there's another mum, a sister. In the manga, you're like, oh shit, what do we do now? And I just don't think the anime captured that. Now, there is the possibilities that, yes, stuff like the things I said they skipped over could be put later on in the series, but then you're like, you know, what will it be like later on? Will it have lost its charm? And then the sister crone, I mean, the introduction's done now. You can't go back to that. That's done and dusted. So you have to think to yourself, well, which was better? You know, all this type of stuff. And personally, this is not a huge dig at the anime. I don't think the episode was bad. I'm just worried that if they've skipped over this, what other stuff will they skip over? And once it's finished, will you be able to look back on this and think, huh, you know what? I feel like there was just that something missing. Now, this is going to be an almost deadly comparison to a lot of people, because people are going to flip out and say,
you're just overreacting, and don't be absolutely stupid. And yes,
I may be overreacting, and yes, I may be stupid, but I just don't want this to become Tokyo Ghoul version 2, where the anime had so much promise, but because they just blitzed through it all and skipped over so much stuff, you sat there just kind of not having a clue where you are. And that's not what I want to happen. It's not what I'm saying is going to happen. It's just, there's a possibility, you know. It's going to be, what, 12 episodes? It's going to be an interesting one, because it's a very dialogue heavy series, and that's clearly why they skipped out on what was skipped out on this episode, because all the stuff they skipped in this episode could have been an entire half of the episode. They skipped out on, like, what I'd say 5 to 10 minutes worth of content, which doesn't sound like a lot, but honestly, when you're trying to tell a story, it can be. So we'll see where the series goes, and I do hope they introduce what was skipped out on later on down the line. But if they do introduce it, will that come at the expense of skipping out on something else? We just have no idea. But guys, let me know what you thought of this episode in the comment section down below. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're not ready to become a member of the Senpai Squad. And I will see you guys in another video. But until then, peace.